Yes, good morning, FanX. Welcome to day 3. Is this your first FanX?
This is my first FanX in Salt Lake City, yeah.
Oh my goodness, well welcome. This is one of my favorite cons. The people are so good. And have you noticed that it smells like fresh baked goods everywhere you are?
The hospitality has been nuts. They're feeding us so much, I think half of us are still sleeping.
Same. And also, 10 a.m. All right, so first off, I just want to say if you guys have questions, please go ahead and line up. And I am just going to go ahead and kick us off.
Oh, I love it.
So man, everyone knows you from the iconic sitcom Family Matters.
Right.
I feel like you became a master of physical comedy from that show. So what is kind of the hardest stunt that you have ever done?
Oh, wow. I broke this finger. This is forever deformed. I broke this finger in a wrestling episode. Wow. I don't think people realize about physical comedy is you kind of got to actually be an athlete to pull it off.
Yes.
So I was actually kind of the opposite of clumsy. I pretty much kind of always land on my feet, thank God. But it all kind of started on literally the first episode I ever did, which is episode 12 of season 1. And Rich Carell, who was one of our rotating directors, he came from quite the comedy background himself. His father was one of the members of Amos and Andy.
Oh.
And so Rich kind of comes over to me one day and he goes, "Come here, I want to see if you can do something." And he teaches me to walk into this door and hit it with my foot first and snap my head back. And he's like, "Okay, you do that well. You do it without getting hurt." And that's literally how the journey began. It's like we can teach this kid stuff and he doesn't get hurt.
Whew. I mean, because it definitely looked like you got hurt in those episodes.
Well, now life is different with YouTube now. I don't even think people really fully appreciate physical comedy because now you can just see somebody get jacked up. And it's like, oh, that stage.
Oh my gosh. So tell us a little bit about your audition process. How did you even, kind of craft the voice and the look and the feel of Steve Urkel? Yeah. Which, sidebar, I actually love Stefan Urkel, so I like to switch up,
Man, Stefan was the gift that I never saw coming. I never even wanted to play Stefan Urkel, to be quite honest. I thought he was boring. I thought he was a one-note joke, and I was just naive. I had no idea. After I read the script, I remember the executive producer, David Duclain, I was like, how do you like it? And I was like, he's kind of boring. He just kind of pat me on the head, and he was like, people need to see the real you, Jay. And I'm like, really? I was like, all right, man. And so when I came through the door, to this day, I've really never heard a scream that loud. And this is before social media, the ripple effect of people calling each other on their landline phones, be like, girl, turn to channel 7. He's not like that at all.
That was me calling my friends. Turn to ABC. Look, we got something new.
Yeah, but the audition process, I've talked about it a lot. You can probably see it even online. I was a 12-year-old kid. Everybody wanted to audition to be the cool kid that Laura wanted to take to the dance because that character was almost guaranteed to reoccur. And my character was supposed to be just a guest spot. But I had braces on my teeth. So that means a lot to me and to kids out here too, because you know how you feel when you have braces on your teeth. You don't feel confident. You feel like I'm not pretty. You feel like I'm not, it's like everybody's looking at all this steel on my mouth. and it's not like that at all. It's just it's just something you grow through. But I had clear braces on my teeth, and because of that, there were a lot of roles that just weren't considering me back in 1990. And all I cared about was basketball. And all of a sudden, this role comes along to play a nerd. And I was like, hey, well, wait a minute, I got braces on my teeth. And my parents had the coolest policy. Anytime I got a job, I could get one of anything I want. Now, if you think about that, that's genius. Because back then, prices were very different. So you're telling some kid that he can go to Fedco, Circuit City, or Toys R Us and buy one of anything they want. Probably wasn't going to cost them about more than $200, $300. And the residuals from just being on the show and the salary were in the thousands. So I really wanted that job so I could get a Sega Genesis. And that's all it was. I was just it's a long story to say I was a 12-year-old black kid with braces on my teeth, and they told me if I played a nerd and I got the job, I was going to get a Sega Genesis.
So then what was the first game? This is important. What was the first?
Oh man, back then for me, I only cared about the sports games, so it was Lakers versus Celtics.
Ah, okay. So I'm going to let you kick it off. What's your first question?
Love your shirt.
What was it like on the set of Family Matters?
Oh, on the set was great, man. You know, I lived in the era where you were present, you know, and I just annoyed everybody because I dribbled my basketball too much. I dribbled my basketball everywhere. I remember the script supervisor, Joyce Webb, just hated me for it, but it was an amazing time. This is before you felt like you needed to film everything while you're filming everything. And it was just a lot of basketball. I had my own hoop on the set. I learned about star power when ER asked if they could use our hoop and put it in between Family Matters set and ER's. And then I quickly learned my hoop became George Clooney's hoop. But you know, other than little funny anecdotal stories like that, you know, it was just, I woke up every morning and I started school early. That was a policy my mom put in place. So I went to school from like 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and then, you know, start rehearsing, and I would get whatever school I could get in afterwards, or in between. So I'd probably end up with somewhere between 4 to 5 hours of school a day. And then a really cool thing was, because we didn't have social media back then, I used to go to actual school. I used to go to normal school.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was like every 1 week out of every month, unless it was the springtime when we had reruns, I would go back and I would pop into my classrooms. I used to love that because I was always caught up. And so my classmates would look at me like, how the heck does he know our lesson today?
You were like, oh, I'm still putting in work on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
So I was kind of like
still studying.
academic superpower. I used to like that.
So how did, you know, portraying Steve Urkel, because it sounds like you had a lot of balance, which is really great for a child actor.
Yeah.
So, you know, how did portraying Steve Urkel really fundamentally change you as Jaleel?
Ooh, wow, that is a dope question I'm going to take with me for something else I'm working on. You do wear the scars of the character a little bit, only because there's always kind of like this preconceived notion about you. Yeah. So like, for me, biggest was basketball, you know, where it was just like my presence on any pickup game or any, you know, summer camp situation. My mom used to send me to summer camp. I used to go to Duke basketball camp, Jordan's basketball camp. Any basketball camp I wanted to go to, she would send me in the summertime. You know, there was this edge coming from the other side that it's like, Urkel is beating me. And it's like, no, Jaleel is beating you. And, you know, as you get older, especially in, you know, guys, we become guys, we just start testing each other out and pushing boundaries that much more. You know, by the time you get to college, it's a thing. But if you're good at anything and you're affable, you're not a jerk, you know, those are just boundaries that you push past. And, you know, people become used to seeing me on UCLA's campus coming in on a Friday to get my run in. And, you know, that was probably about that, and just dating in general, you know, were probably ways where I was affected.
Right, yeah. I mean, I agree though, you know, if you were a kind person, look at how far it gets you in life.
Oh yeah, and look, I'm a crack up on the court. You know, I got jokes. So, I got jokes. There's two kind of trash talks. There's one kind of trash talk between guys where it's like, I don't like this guy and there's going to be a problem. And there's another kind of trash talk that's like, okay, he's kind of funny.
Yeah, like we're just having a little friendly competition.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering whether it's now or whether it was just right after filming stopped. Did the voice of Steve Urkel like ever come out accidentally, like with family or friends?
You know, it would annoy me sometimes because I would get people who would be like, you know, oh, I just heard it. And I'm like, no, you didn't. I didn't do it. You know, it would never really accidentally come out. There is no accidental about it. If I want to do the voice, I do the voice. The voice has changed a bit over the years because I did Scooby-Doo. And so we kind of heard it a little bit. Thank you. Heard it a little bit, and I'm actually kind of working on an animated movie right now with it. So we'll see what happens. But I think between the ages of like 14, really 15, about 15 and 17, I used to have to do these like voice checks in the shower. Because I was like, my puberty was just all over the place. Puberty was just wild for me. I just had these giant feet and this voice that was just one octave here and one octave there. And sometimes I would get a note from the studio that was like, we can't understand you, can you please enunciate better? And I'm like, oh, this is as good as it's gonna get right now. I don't know how to say it.
You're like, I'm 15, this is what I can do right now.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, welcome Jaleel, and thank you very, very much for coming out to see us this weekend. We really appreciate it.
Oh man, for a turnout like this is...
My question is, well, since Steve Urkel drove the Urkelmobile, I just wondering if you, Jaleel White, has a car like a British Mini or any kind of European model?
No, instead it was just in my contract, I got the car, so it's just at my mom's house in her garage.
Oh, you got to keep it.
Yeah, I had to keep the car. So it's at my mom's house in her garage, and to me it looks like anybody who won a really big trophy in high school. I don't want that in my main house. I don't want, right? But it's cool to be in my mom's house. You know what I'm saying? I hope that answers your question. I will say this. Okay, I feel like you're kind of fishing for a story, and I love to give stories if I feel like I'm fishing for one. I never learned how to drive stick. And no, I can drive stick now. We fixed it. But I never learned how to drive stick until I was like probably about 24, 25 years old. And at least man to man, that's a thing. It's a thing amongst guys. You gotta be able to drive a freaking manual, right? So, okay, hey, okay, I like that. Speak up, ladies. Okay, speak up, ladies. It wasn't always that way, but guess what? I'm gonna make sure that my daughter can drive a manual. So I get where you're coming from. But my dad's like, oh man, he was so excited because I was in my mid-20s, and it's like, I get to teach my son something else. And so he runs out to a car rental spot, and he comes back with and he said, Dad, I got you a BMW. So when he said BMW, I'm thinking of BMW. My dad shows up with like the original Mini Cooper.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, Dad, I play Steve Urkel. I can't drive around LA in this car. And it was like, son, they told me it was a BMW over the phone, and I just didn't even think to ask really what kind of BMW until I got there to pick it up. And so I would go out in LA and I would learn how to drive my Mini Cooper, and I would only practice at like ungodly hours, like 11 o'clock. I'd set my alarm for like midnight, and I'd intentionally go stop the car at like Sunset in La Cienega. For anybody who's ever been to Los Angeles, that's like our steepest hill in Los Angeles. So if you could do stop and go on Sunset in La Cienega, you're not gonna roll back into somebody. And I'm literally 25 years old, Sunset La Cienega, completely empty street at 2 o'clock in the morning, just stopping and going in a Mini Cooper. But I did get an Aston Martin after that, though. So.
A little bit of an upgrade, just a small.
It was only used to learn.
I will say though, okay, so if that was your kind of biggest trophy that you took from set,
yeah.
What's the item that you took from set that's most sentimental to you?
Ooh, sentimental. Man. I didn't get to take what was sentimental to me. I didn't get to take it. Our costumer was a guy named Palmer Brown, and he passed away of HIV, and he didn't even complete the run of the show. But Palmer was like one of those people who put his imprint on the character with his costumes, and I always actually felt bad that he never got any credit for that. He never got any kind of, costume Emmy nomination or anything like that, because everything he did for Urkel was so badass. I basically just brought a high-pitched voice and the glasses to, you know, to the scenario because they were my dad's. I still have those, are my dad's glasses. And so I always consider those glasses actually more Jaleel than my family legacy than the shows. But Palmer used to do these sketches every week. So anytime I went into the wardrobe room, he would do sketches for what my next costume was going to be. If I had to dress up in a knight's outfit, he had to get all that tin and everything, put it together. If I had to dress up as Myrtle Urkel, and then he would take the fabrics and he would pen them to the sketch and send them over to studio tailoring and you know, to putting the outfits together. And I always wanted to keep those because I would have had like 150, 200 awesome, badass sketches of every outfit that I ever really needed to wear that was, you know, from the show. And he also was responsible for streamlining the character. So if you kind of notice in the beginning, Urkel's clothes were kind of plaid, just not matching, and kind of like these really tight-fitting granddad sweaters. And then over time, you know, this is before everybody became so brand conscious. Man, like, it would be nice to go back in time and get a check from Ralph Lauren because, you know, all he wore was polo shirts and you know, tight jeans and suspenders. So Palmer's really responsible for really streamlining the character's look. And I love honoring him, and I wish that if there was anybody ever out there that worked in costumes, because he passed away and I know they have all his belongings. Man, that's one thing I would love to have.
Oh yeah, man. I hope that you get one of those sketches, at least one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh man.
When you were hosting Total Blackout,
Yes, my second favorite job of all time.
we love that show. Did you ever actually do any of the stunts, and what was the grossest thing that they did on that show?
So, oh man, great question. Man, give it up for this guy. So, Total Blackout, this is awesome, because I love speaking to kids too, about doing things that we don't want to do in life sometimes. I remember my then manager told me he wanted me to be in a movie called Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus. Right? And I get the script for this thing, and yeah, I won't lie, at the time I was actually going through a lot of stuff with child custody stuff and whatever too, so I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to like pat and help me out in a little way. But that's here nor there. That's part of my motivation for reading this script. That's just what actors do. And I'm reading the script and I'm like, Chris, are you serious? And he's just like, oh, Jaleel, people need to see you in uniform. And it's like, people really watch these movies. And so I did it, and I had a great experience actually with the director, Chris Ray. Great experience. Because he was going through custody stuff too. So he was just like another director who could just identify with another father in a co-parenting situation and new to it. And when the movie came out, it got really big ratings on Sci-Fi. Like, even I was like, that many people watched that? They really watched us fighting that fake ass shark? They did, right? And so because of that movie, it was the only reason that Sci-Fi considered me to be the host of Total Blackout. And so I like to, it's a roundabout way of you know, kind of speaking to kids about doing things that you don't want to do sometimes, but you're being guided by people who should have your best interest at heart. Yeah. So, but getting back to Total Blackout, that's how I got the job. Now, once I got the job, I fell in love with the job because it was really just putting people in pitch black darkness for time challenges. And so editing was our friend. So what happens is we started with me trying to interact with the contestants live in real time, but we actually stopped doing that because it would marry whatever they did to whatever sound was going on between us. So we were stuck with the soundtrack of whatever happened. So instead we let this diabolical Icelandic dude named Heinrich, who invented the game, interact with the fan live, and I just sat in the booth and watched. So the audio that you're hearing was actually layered over afterwards in post and editing became our friend. So we would get people, we put them in here for time challenges, and they would freak out once we turned off the lights. Once we turned off the lights, we get cussed out, be like, hey, I want to back out of this. This is not what I signed up for. This just feels different. And nobody would respond to them. And it'd be like, hey, I'm talking to you, and they just go off. They just lose their minds for a while, and nobody would respond to them. And because bottom line, once we got you in the dark room, the show had begun. So so we would have people that would literally be like for up to a half hour, 45 minutes, sitting down, refusing to move. And it was like, we can stay here all day if you want. And I remember one guy, he had to guess the weight of 4 different objects. And he lowered his hand down, and it was a crocodile. But okay, I know you go, ooh, but it's like, it's TV. If anybody gets hurt, the show is canceled. The lawsuit is huge. There's like 2 big white guys like wrestling this crocodile from both ends, making sure that this dude is not touched in any way, but they want him to feel the tail, right? And once he feels that tail, he doesn't see the 2 big white guys who cannot let this freaking crocodile loose, right? And so the guy jumps up and he's like, the profanity that just came out of his mouth, you got me here with crocodile? I have children. He just starts freaking out. And it's like, sir, guess the weight. And it's just, we wouldn't help them psychologically at all. And it was one thing after another. I think one of my favorite episodes too was, this was very European. European sensibilities are different than American sensibilities. There was one where the guy had to guess, the smells of different things. And the last thing he had to guess was it was a person's butt at plexiglass. And he got the cheese and he got the socks, and it's one of the funniest episodes. You can see it on YouTube still to this day. And I mean, just the laughter in that booth. And he actually got it though. He was running out of time. He was kind of running out of time, and he's like, I know this smell. He was like, I know this smell.
I can't put my finger on it.
He's got his nose right up there, and it's like at some points his nose actually touched the butt, and it was like, oh my gosh, we're freaking out. I'm telling you, dog, this was the second favorite job I've ever had in my life. And I'm like, all I have to do is ask empathetic questions after these people have put through these experiences, and they're like, you're so nice, thanks for being there for me. I'm like, they paid me to be here. It's a good deal. It's a good deal.
But it kind of sounds like even if they hadn't paid you, you still would have done it because it's so entertaining.
Oh man, listen, the only reason why the show only lasted 2 seasons is because of corporate squabbles. The show is already formatted around the world. So there's already a Japanese version, there's already several versions in other countries. And I guess Universal wanted to participate in that business as well. So it became a business thing. And again, I'd never seen a job go away where the ratings were amazing. Twitter would light up. This is like when Twitter mattered, man. It was like Twitter would light up when Total Blackout was on. It was like, they really got this guy's nose in somebody's ass. And the worst part about the show was you would almost rather be eliminated immediately because then you could leave, go enjoy the rest of your evening. We were bound to American game show laws, and American game show laws say that you cannot pay your contestants. So if you weren't gonna win, you didn't want to come in second place because it meant you were probably there until 2 o'clock in the morning, trudging back to your car, completely abused, guessing the weight of crocodiles, smelling asses, and you got nothing.
No consolation prize whatsoever.
Was that a thorough answer? Did I go off on a tangent? Sorry.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Todd. What's your favorite memory of Family Matters?
I mean, I have many, but I can give you a top 3 or 5. I think one of my top memories would be Stefan just coming in the door, because it's for me always been about the fans. So whatever you guys enjoy, I feed off of that, and I was genuinely shocked, when you're going through puberty, you're confused about life. You're confused about who you are. You're confused about what you're going to grow into. And I was genuinely shocked in my mind that so many people didn't realize I'm not this character. I'm acting. And so that was this moment for both of us, for me and the viewing audience. So that's probably number one. Number two, we did an episode where we had Larry Johnson on the show as Grandmama. I wrote that episode.
Oh,
So I got a story credit, but I wrote that episode, and that was when I really caught the writing bug, and I realized I wanted to be a producer writer. We did another episode where we had all of New Edition on the show, and yeah, like I got Bobby Brown to come to work 5 days that week. That was pretty cool. And then like when the great Whitney Houston showed up and wanted to sit on our floor and watch the taping at Video Village, like our producers were even starstruck and didn't know how to accommodate her. She needed like 10 chairs around our Video Village where our producers would sit and give notes. And I was proud of those two episodes, the Larry Johnson episode and the New Edition episode, because they literally just came out of my head, and I was kind of oblivious to power. I had ideas that were in my head in August, and we were filming them by October, and they were on the air by November. And to have accomplished that at age 17 or 18, I didn't know how special that was. So I'd say those are probably top three. Then on a personal note, playing a lot of one-on-one with George Clooney. I guess I didn't realize how special that was either. This guy dressed in hospital scrubs and me dressed in suspenders and pants, and we're really out here duking it out, playing one-on-one. Yeah, I'd say that, and I think the last thing would be I miss being a teenager with a new car on tape nights. There's an area in LA called Universal City Walk. It's attached to Universal Studios, and it's really not far from Warner Brothers at all. And that's when the excitement comes, when the kids on television shows get cars and freedom, and we start driving ourselves to work. And so we would get a 2-hour lunch before every taping. And my mom didn't buy me a fancy car either. When I first learned how to drive, she made me drive the family Acura. And that's even something I'm grateful for, because I got a chance to see how women can sometimes treat you when you're driving an Acura versus an Acura NSX. But I would take my mom's Acura, Darius and I, who would play Eddie Winslow, we would run up to City Walk, and all we wanted to do was just look at girls. And so I'm out here just scoping girls. And it's like, we got 10 minutes to get back to the set. Literally 10 minutes. And I used to kind of emulate Arsenio Hall, because he really would just run to set and get into position. And I would kind of do the same version of my own thing, where I was literally driving past the studio audience going into our stage, and I'm rushing to put on my suspenders and pop in my contacts and jump into the intros. And that was my little adrenaline rush. I'm not sure I'm ever going to feel that adrenaline rush again.
You know, I'm glad you brought up that New Edition episode. I didn't realize that was your idea, because what I miss most about 90s sitcoms are having R&B groups come
right?
sing, and you guys were kind of like the first one, I think, to do it, and then Moesha started doing it a lot, and I miss that.
Fresh Prince had the most. They had the most musical guests.
Yes.
But that's because of Will. But
and that's because of Quincy Jones. I feel like
Nah, that was Will.
really.
That was Will.
Yeah. But I'm like, I need that. I need that in the sitcoms now. Bring back musical artists to sing on stage, and give me a little prom scene. That's what I want.
I'm curious though. I mean, with just a smattering of of crowd noise, how many people really enjoy new sitcoms now? Exactly.
I mean, I enjoy some.
Right? No, listen, I'm here for the honesty. Look, It's just whatever. I can't explain it because these studios want to reboot everything. That there was a magic about sitcoms back then that just doesn't translate now. And I think part of the magic was also is that we really were, you guys have to understand as fans, we really were allowed to play more back then. It's a much more data-based industry now with executives pushing buttons like, George Jetson working for Spacely Sprocket now. And back then it was like some of our funniest moments in a show might not have happened until Wednesday or Thursday of rehearsal where it was like, oh, I'm seeing this now. And, some of our funniest moments also came, from very old school comedy, deadpan looks and, just stillness between two actors or hearing the audience react and just milking a joke, real old school Jackie Gleason type, moves. And if that stuff's not on the script for an executive to approve now, they don't understand how that's going to work.
Oh, wow.
So it takes a lot of power to create that old school feel. And it's cool actually hearing that because I'm very passionate about the single camera stuff, only because I would do sitcom tomorrow if I had the same freedom. But I knew I wouldn't have the same freedom to create the way I did.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask because, they have tossed around a reboot, of Family Matters. Yeah. And we know The Fresh Prince is getting a reimagining, so I'm curious to see what that'll look like on Peacock. But yeah, I hear you. There's same freedom.
I'll never say never. I like for people to understand. I don't have a problem playing Urkel. Playing Urkel is fun. I think this, as I share stories even with you guys now just about my life, you asked the story, you asked the question that I believe people would like to see, and you said, how did Urkel affect Jaleel's life? And I think there's something there. I think there's something, if you get what I'm getting at, I think there's something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
I like your Transformer t-shirt.
Oh, thanks. Anyway, it's great to meet you, Joel, face to face. And as the original voice for Sonic the Hedgehog, are you considering getting a cameo in the next Sonic movie?
Oh man, that would be way past cool. Man, so I don't take any offense that I was never asked to be in the film. When these properties, like I said, change hands, every executive wants to put their stamp on it. This is my actor. This is the one that I picked. Yada yada yada, and that's just kind of the way it goes. I always like it when a director has the power to bring back people from the past that the fans would remember, but that generally only comes with the power of a director who wants to do that, like a J.J. Abrams or somebody. And Sonic was much more of a producer-run thing than it was a director thing. So if they ever asked, I'd be there in a heartbeat. That was my side hustle in high school. I would be racing over to a recording studio in my mom's car again. And it was so annoying because I would be like, dude, I gotta do 3 episodes at once. It would just kind of take a long time. But I'm so grateful, again, now that I look back on it, because I'm grateful because I had no clue that fans would love my rendition of the voice the way they have all these years.
Yes. Thank you. What's your question?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. I love your glasses.
Thank you.
You sparkly.
It's nice to meet you. I have a question concerning Myrtle Urkel. I understand that was probably one of the very hard roles for you to play.
Yeah.
And what was your peers' reaction and your reaction to you portraying that?
So, I was kind of gassed up to play Myrtle at first, but there's always kind of been this thing about men in dresses, and then in particular, black men in dresses or whatever. And I think there was some chatter on the set that started to make me feel a little bit insecure about doing it. And, about, is this appropriate? And, they're always putting a black man in a dress. And I'm like, I don't know what y'all are talking about. I just thought it was funny at first. And so as the week started to go on, I really did start to get nervous that I was going to be made fun of at school. But I have an interesting default. And it's a cool thing for anybody to learn about themselves. Is when you're put under the hot lights, when you're put under the hot seat, you gotta deliver. How do you respond? Games on the line, you gotta hit 2 free throws. How do you respond? I think anybody should put themselves to that test. I did the show Dancing with the Stars, and that's another adrenaline rush that is like nothing I've ever experienced. Because it's like, you're dancing in front of the entire nation. And I pretty much kind of understood people were kind of waiting to see if I'm going to fall, trip, do something clumsy. And Myrtle was like that for me. So my default tends to be to just pour myself even more. If you're going to make fun of me, you're not going to say I sucked too. So by the time we were done with taping that episode, like I had damn near convinced myself I was a girl. I mean, from my mannerisms to, I savored every line of dialogue I had to give to Eddie Winslow. At the end of the show, you go out for curtain call, I was crying. I was in my dressing room, I was crying. And our executive producer, David, came back, was like, hey, it was the only curtain call that I almost missed. I actually did miss. They just brought me out after a curtain call, and they were like, guess what? He does want to come out and say goodbye to you guys. And I didn't get that reaction at all. I didn't get a negative reaction at all. As a matter of fact, everybody at school thought it was hilarious. And my dad told him after that episode I wasn't going to do it anymore. And so probably about 3 or 4 years later, I was actually just kind of bored on the lot. And I remember I just randomly walked into the writer's room and was like, if you guys want to do Myrtle again, I can do it. And that was me going from age 14 to 18 though. So, that's what I said. My puberty was real. When you guys were watching that, you're watching a young boy's puberty also. But again, it's one of those kind of things, right up there with the Mega Shark, right up there with Sonic. I'm happy I just forced myself to do my best and give my best. And now I get to look back on one hell of a performance.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, I am so sorry. We are out of time. I'm going to try to squeeze you in real quick. Just give us the final question. Make it good.
Yes, Jaleel, sorry if I butchered your name.
No.
I do got one question for you, and this speaks to thousands of people across the world. Being Urkel, how does it make you feel, speak to you, being the person that, that speaking to thousands of people across the world, being the voice for us who are outcast, bullied, harassed, and some of us who have disabilities. How does it make you feel being that person that that, hey, I got this and I can help you guys out because it helps so much of us out?
That's a really, Well, listen, man, I notice people. I've been seeing you right up here in front, man, from the moment I sat down. Remember, I was a kid too. So when you're a kid, you don't know how much you're impacting other people. So it's really something that I've really discovered in my adulthood, how much all of the characters and the portrayals and, the show did for people who felt that way. It's really been a revelation, to be quite honest, in my adult life. Thank you. Thank you a lot. I think all of us I don't think there's a person out here that doesn't go through periods in their life where they feel awkward or not accepted. And, I kind of look at it as almost even bigger than Urkel at this point, where it was like, somehow I became the face of Black nerd culture, and then just nerd culture in general. And I think it's probably the #1 thing I'm most proud of with the show is back then, back then, we were always kind of told what a black show was capable of doing before it even hit the air. Oh, well, it won't sell here, it won't sell there, et cetera, et cetera. I remember even when we went into syndication, the New England syndication market was the only major market that did not pick up Family Matters, and our executive producer called the GM of that affiliate and was like, our show has performed very well. And he was like, I don't think it's gonna work in our demographic here. And so they had to give it to him for free for an entire year, with the agreement that if it hit a certain rating, then they would pay an amount the following year. And, kind of sucks that bigotry can get a discount. But when you look at it in terms of progress, I'm really, 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 really honored that I go to Australia, Sweden, all these different places, and they just see us as a family. They didn't see color at all, they just saw us as a family. And so, I look at this room even, and that's why I'm here. I'm like, if somebody tells me that they're gonna assemble a room like this, and I get a reaction like this for that show as the ambassador of just telling good universal stories, I'm not gonna turn that down. So thank you, man, for letting me inspire you.
Thank you.
For making me feel so welcome.
Well, thank you for a great last question. Thank you, Jaleel, for coming to FanX. I hope the rest of your con is fantastic, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody, give a huge round of applause. Give a huge round